I said this to you before we started, and I won't explore it now. The notion of, I was struck by your own, in reading a lot about you before this conversation, yesterday and this morning, this journey, this exploration, this constant sense of being able to descend into the darkness where you don't know what the next move, and you mentioned, you said to me, you're struck by how few people do that, and especially people who've had superior education, who've had much more education.
Yes. Well, you know, therein lies the rub, in a sense. I'm not well educated. I left school when I was 16. I hardly...
To join the Marines.
Join the Marines. I had hardly read a book up until that time. I didn't begin my reading until in the Marine Corps. And one of the first books I read was on mythology, interestingly enough. People like myself, from lower middle class, have a tendency to worship people from the upper middle class, upper class. And I'm speaking in terms of education, not only wealth. Although wealth for the underclass is something to worship. So yes, I was surprised as I began to educate myself into these, this mythology, this journey, this necessary journey on the razor's edge in order to evolve. I was surprised about the reaction from a lot of well-educated people like yourself. You know,
who was struck by it, who immediately were drawn to your journey as something that was fulfilling for you.
Yes, and it just, let me enter upon a new area here, which I have not thought about, but your question is prompting me, so I might stutter a bit here, but let me try. We the people, have to take more responsibility for what exists in our social structures. We cannot abdicate responsibility by turning it over to the formally educated. All the wisdom is not necessarily the land, the playground of the superior, to use your word, educated. Experience could perhaps be the best educator. I'm reminded politics now seems to me to have center stage in everything. It seems to me to be a circus. The world revolves around politics. I was caught up in it myself, watching these political debates all the time, this and that, and hemming and hawing back and forth. And I said to myself, who is behind all the wars that are going on today? Behind all the killing, maiming, burning, and poverty that's being committed today? People who have a superior education. Formally, that is.
Right.
Formally. And I said to myself, if politics is the business of the people, then theater must be the soul of the people. And enough with politics. I might like to see Bill Clinton and the leaders of the nations involved in the war in Bosnia get up and do a piece from a play rather than talk so much about peace. And that experience of the theater, that experience of being, perhaps is the area we really have to go. Not up, but in. What is relevant? What is really relevant in your experience as a human being? I mean, what is one supposed to say, you know? I was in Sarajevo recently with Vanessa Redgrave through the auspices of the UN. And I'm there and I'm looking around, I'm saying, my God, we went to every community, Muslim, Serbian, Croatian, Jewish. Well, the members of these communities want to be together. They want to be together.
And they want the same things.
They want the same
Family,
things.
food,
That's right.
shelter, job.
Communication, to create. They want the same things. Who is hurling the bullets and the bombs? The leaders of the nations are ordering this to be done. So you ask me, what experience might they have? One other than the ability to say, fire!
Has acting for you been an exploration into self?
Totally. There's no other reason to be an actor. But may I come back for a moment
Sure.
to what we were talking about? Because I'm a little concerned that I'm sounding like everyone else that's ever appeared and talked about the subject. I mean it when I say I'd rather see them create a scene from some great play, do some great theater. They might have an experience there that might bring them closer to some reality. That might make them more hospitable to one another. Instead of worshiping their local gods and saying, I'm a Serb and you're a Croat and you're a Muslim, instead of worshiping their local gods, they might discover that there is one creator and one God, and therefore we all do have something in common. But I think as long as they talk, as long as they one another, they will go no further than they have gone already. And I'm saying this pointedly. In the experience of trying to get along together, in the experience, and theater provides an experience. Creation provides an experience that is at its best unspeakable. I'm reminded of one of the prophets, which I researched when we did the Last Temptation of Christ, either Jeremiah or Isaiah. Brilliant minds who exclaimed at one point in his writings, I don't have the words to express my experience. I think it's that experience that I'm talking about. In the experience, something else would happen if they experienced it.
I think if I hear you correctly.
I hope
No, you are. But let me tell you, see if I'm hearing you correctly. And that's what art does.
Yes.
Art is the capacity of an artist to say, through his or her art, the experience that others feel.
Yes. Yes.
Can show the common experience.
The common elements that bind us.
Right.
The common universe we all come from. That we're all made of star stuff. Listen, I'm sorry again, Charlie.
No, you go ahead.
I say this because I come from the other side. As a young Marine, I was more than willing to kill for my country and die for my country. And at times, I believe that's very worthwhile, to stand up for what you believe in. Back then, I was a young, ignorant young man. And, okay, let me stop there.
No, don't stop there, because I want to tell you, coming back on the boat from Lebanon, on the ship, is where you introduced yourself to reading, where you began to...
I recall somewhere in there, yes, I read this book on mythology, on Greek gods. I don't know, I mean, today it's interesting to me that I came up with that book back then when I was 18 years old or 19. I don't know where I got the book from even, but...
You don't want to talk about Korea, but I do, just for a second. Because you've made 45 films, or 46, I mean, I don't know, right, over 40 films. There are people, how many, do you know?
No, all that really indicates is that I didn't have leads, a lot of leads, because if you do, you can't do that many films.
There is somehow now people will look at you, and there's a celebration of you. More people are writing about you, and they're talking about you, and I get a sense you feel that too, that somehow there is an acceptance. And when you look at what it took to get where you are now, any reservations, any regrets, any, or do you look at that as the unfolding of a life, and you're just happy with it?
If I can quote one of the great talents that I admire, regrets, I have a few.
Who was that?
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, oh, Frank Sinatra, yes.
No. Everything that has occurred appears to me to be right. Everything that occurs. Because everything that occurred has provided an opportunity for me to see whether I'm going to run this way or run that way. Luckily enough, I've chosen the path where I ran into myself. I knocked myself over many times. But I got up. I had great friends along the way, because you can't do it without support.
Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, and many that I don't know.
Many you don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I've certainly arrived from some other place to where I am now, yes.
Yes. We're out of time. I want to do this again. As you know, I've been trying to do it for a while.
Me too.
And it's a pleasure to have you
I've
here.
enjoyed your show, really. Great
Thanks.
deal.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Harvey KEITEL. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.